Well, good evening, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to our March meeting of the UT Dallas Applied Project Management Forum. For those of you who have been here before, welcome back. It's good to see all the familiar faces. And for those of you who are new, welcome. I hope you'll come back more often. We have quite a good selection of speakers. If you're not familiar with UT Dallas, they've been one of the drivers of project management here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for the past 15 years or so, and they do have a program for project management, master's, MBA, or master's, or a certificate. And if you're interested in learning more about that, Jim Zott, who's the director of the program. Jim, are you here? Okay. Yeah. Okay. The guy in the back of the room trying to hide, that's Jim Zott. So please, if you have any questions, please talk to him. It's my pleasure tonight to introduce to you Kristi Devers. She's been a PMP with over 20 years experience in the financial service industries. She works for Mercedes-Benz over in Fort Worth, so as a matter of her dedication, she drove all the way from Texas Motor Speedway to join us tonight, and she's currently the director of PMI Dallas. She's managed large-scale change initiatives, which in my opinion is one of the hardest types of projects to do because you've got to convince people to change the way they do work, which is not easy to do. And she's going to talk about one of those tonight for which she was awarded the 2014 Mercedes-Benz Financial Services President Awards. The career highlights, I'll let you read that. I'm not going to read it to you, but we're very interested in what she has to say. She wants to make this interactive, so please, if you have some questions, please speak up and ask her. I've got the microphone, and I'll come and put it in your face and let you ask the question so everybody can hear it. So, Kristi?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Awesome. I am so excited to be here. I can't tell you. I think that this information that you're going to get tonight is going to be very timely, not only just learning about executing award-winning projects, but how you actually can win them, because it is important to win them. Again, as you said, I look at this as a conversation, not a presentation. So please throw out your comments, your questions as we go along. I think Kurt has a microphone there. So as Kurt said, I work for Mercedes-Benz Financial Services. I want to make sure you understand it's the financial services sector that does the private financing for all the Mercedes products and for Freightliner trucks. So we are not the auto manufacturer, but they do make me drive their cars, which is terrible. I know it. So I want to tell you just a little bit about our PM group. We have 8 project managers in my office in Fort Worth. We are an operations and business process improvement type of a group. We have another IT PM group that's in our corporate headquarters in Farmington Hills, Michigan, and we are also governed from our enterprise project management office out of Farmington Hills as well. We undertook 96 projects last year between 8 people, so quite a bit. They range in scale from anything from just 2 weeks, very quick projects, come please do a staffing model, come help us with some process mapping and give us your lean expertise, to very large projects to 2.5 years, which is the one I'm going to talk about tonight for you that highlight that one. I've been in the financial services industry since 1995. I worked for Citibank previously and was served on a lot of projects as a business lead in many capacities. And I thought, you know what, that gig looks pretty cool. And was just lucky enough to kind of slide my way eventually into PM. I did get my PMP in 2012. Yay! I have my MBA from Texas Women's University, so I can relate to a lot of you that are going to school and trying to work and do all this stuff that you do. I commend you for it because it's a lot of hard work. I'm currently, started this year, the director of PMI Dallas. I'm proud to say, working for, by the way, our new president, Susan Kennedy, who is here in the front. Susan, please raise your hand. And we have a lot of good stuff to share with you tonight. What's going to be coming up with PMI Dallas as far as awards are concerned. So super excited to share that with you. So award nominations for me, as Kurt mentioned, I was the winner of the MBFS President's Award in 2013. I also received 2 other nominations in 2008 and 2015, which I guess is how I got this gig tonight. So I'm excited to talk a little about those. But first, though, I just want to get to know you guys a little bit better. So just by show of hands, how many of you are in the UTD, are students here at UTD? Okay. Lone guy out there. Okay. How many of you are already working in PM? Wow, lots and lots. Have PMPs. Holy moly, and are PMI Dallas chapter members. Wow, that is fantastic. Yay, good for you. All right. So I just want to start out by, let's look over our objectives here real quick. So lessons learned, I want to just share with you my lessons learned from project execution and also from actually winning a project and how you can win one, as I said. I've got some key ideas, some key activities that I want to talk to you about that, and most importantly, how you plan to win an award, because as project managers, we plan. So let's plan to win the award too, right? All right, so I'm just kind of curious. I'm going to back that up for a second. So just shout out, why would you even want to win an award? Who cares? You're probably going to get something that's going to collect dust on your credenza, and who cares if you win one? Why would you want to?
Bonus.
Bonus is good. There is money involved, absolutely. What else?
Resume.
Credibility. Yeah. What's that?
Looks good on your resume.
Looks good on your resume, absolutely.
I'm in IT, it's the only time I feel appreciated.
Yeah, I'm sure that's very true. Yeah, that's all very true. I mean, to me, the biggest one is recognition for your team. I'm sure a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and heartache goes into projects, right? So the best way to say thank you is through an award, absolutely. Just the perception, I think that PM, the perception of PM is evolving, right? I know Kurt, you and I were just kind of talking about this, right? It's getting better as we go along, but I think a lot of people think, what does that group do? They make pretty Gantt charts and some nice status reports. They don't really know what it is project managers do. So I think the more we can do as a project management profession to bring a positive image to PM is a good thing. Credibility, as you said, for sure, giving the character and faith behind you to execute things. The visibility that you get, it's just nice to, more people get to see your face, they get to know your name and what it is that you do is also a great thing. Support for future initiatives. So I think that, if you have an award behind you, people are going to want you to do their projects, absolutely. And of course, as you also said, career enhancement, getting that on your resume never hurts. So here are some of the key ideas. For me, I think it's like a project. I kind of look at this presentation twofold. How can you execute and do a successful project, and how can you execute to win an award? But I think you've got to identify your success criteria up front. So this is the time to dig out your lessons learned and to really start perusing through all those artifacts on how you're going to win. And also start thinking about what is the corporate strategy for you to win? What are the politics you're going to have to overcome? All those good things, right? But so not only that, from a project perspective, your project has to succeed in order to win an award, at least you hope. I mean, most projects, you don't have to necessarily be all the way through closure to win an award, but you've got to be far enough along that you can show some measurable results, right? People are going to have to be judging you on that. So it's also understanding what is going to be the success criteria to win the award. And that's going to take some research up front, which we're going to talk about in just a second. I think definitely visualizing the success, not only of the project, but along that journey, take that journey with your team. They've got to be involved and know that you're going to go for it, going to go for an award. And as we know, I think as project managers, as leaders, people are watching us. We're the leaders, right? So we're the ones that have to stay positive and make sure that we get to the end goal there. Consider what possible awards might be available. We're going to talk about that at the end because there is a lot out there that you probably don't even realize is out there. And my recommendation is if your company doesn't have one, you should start one. Why not? And that would be even a bigger feather in your cap. So we'll talk about that too. Again, get out those lessons learned and dig into that. All right, project highlights. So I just want to take a few minutes to talk about the project in particular that did give me the MBFS President's Award. The award itself is a regional award given out by our president of the company, Peter Zieringer. It's voted on by a team of folks. So it's a regional award, meaning it's not just in the US, it's in Canada, and you're competing against other Latin American companies as well. So the pool and the submissions is quite large. There's several categories. There's team categories, individual, volunteer, a whole bunch. And as Susan said, monetarily wise, I have to admit, MBFS spared no expense. Not only did we get monetary award bonuses, but we were flown out to San Diego for the week to hang out with the president. We got to go to a Carlsbad, California facility to see where they design the new and future upcoming MBFS products, which was really cool, and where they do the clay models and that kind of thing. So that was really fun. And again, got a lot of visibility out of that. The project itself was 2.5 years, and you're probably thinking, my God, why did a project take that long? But it was for both our truck and our car brands. So, and those two had very different processes. We had to onboard 2 new vendors, so just our procurement process itself was quite lengthy. That took about 12 to 18 months just to gain vendors. We were doing something completely new. How many of you are familiar with workflow technology? I'm sure, yeah, right. So we were introducing workflow technology into our organization. We were kind of behind the 8 ball in getting that, to be honest. That was something that was completely new to us, which is something that we could also highlight when we submitted our award. And I'm going the wrong way here, but beg your pardon. Get you back on track there. Thank you. It was also a challenge because we had to work backwards in our timeline. We had a huge project coming up in the next 2 years that once that project started, everything had to cease. So we had to get our project done before that. So we didn't have the luxury to say, oh, golly gee, let's sit out and project plan, and how long is this going to take? They said, no, you're going to have it done by this amount of time. So we had to kind of fit it into that space. So just to give you an example of how big it was, there was over 3,000 test cases, and there was over 6,000 business rules written between this project. So quite intimidating. Not only that, but our IT, as I mentioned, was in Michigan. So we had remote teams. Not only did we have these 2 new vendors that were remote, we had our IT team in Farmington Hills, so we had challenges of working remotely. Our budget was multi-million. It was over $5 million. Actually, our business case originally was upside down. And so we had to really research and sell to our operating committee and to our board of management in Germany why we wanted to do this and how this would be a benefit to the organization down the road. So that's another reason why it took us so long to get that done. Governance-wise, as I mentioned, we were governed by our Enterprise Project Management Office in Farmington Hills. We are lucky, though, our EPM assigns us project quality coaches every time you get an EPM level project. So you have a coach that is assigned with you to walk you through your entire PM process, make sure that you are following the proper methodology and that you are all your artifacts and everything to pass a quality gate for each and every 5 of the project management phases is in order. They do not want you going in front of the OC or the BOM to embarrass yourself. You will be ready to go and you will be following the proper methodology to protect the company. So that's pretty neat. We had about 100 stakeholders, so lots of people. And our objective was to automate a very heavy manual process that we had. And I can't get into a lot of details about that, but essentially we literally had stacks of paper in the office. If we wanted to know what we had in the office, people were walking around to desks and counting. I mean, really? This was, back in to where we are now, it's amazing that we were doing that. So we wanted to take a process that was taking about 3 to 4 days and reduce that down to 24 hours, which we did do. But a huge change initiative, not only in the process, but how we thought about doing business, right, and that change management aspect. So interesting there.
Kristi, what size was your project team?
The actual core team was about 12 people. Yeah, the core team that met day to day, that was keeping the eye on the ball every day, was about 12 folks. So good question. I do want to share with you just a few of the lessons learned specifically out of the project and about winning the award. One thing I have to say is when you're researching awards, check to see if there's a limitation to the amount of people that can be on a team if you're going to go for a team award, because we had a limit of 7. And as you can see, we had 100 stakeholders and a core team of 12. Uh-oh, somebody's going to get left off and somebody's feelings are going to get hurt. So just be aware of that up front. And if that's the case, you can do some things to circumvent it. First of all, I think it's the sponsors' job and responsibility to choose the final nominations. I think you can have a say in it, but ultimately it's up to you, up to the sponsor to decide that and make the nomination. But also find ways to honor your team if they don't make it on the award, because that's obviously super important. Celebrate every milestone, not just the closure. Don't wait till you get across the finish line. Celebrate every phase, every big milestone that you have, along the way. I think too, one of the things that really saved me was we had assigned PMs to larger areas of the project. If you remember, you heard me say we had over 3,000 test cases. That was a big job in and of itself just to manage testing. So we actually brought in a PM that just managed the testing. We had PMs that just did business requirements. So I think that's something that you ought to look at if you've got something really large like this one. Again, I can't stress reviewing risks enough. This was a time where all eyes were on us. We had a very tight time frame. This had a lot of visibility. And there was actually another project that we were codependent on. And it didn't go through. And that was a big impact to our timeline. But we thought about the risks up front. We had a mitigation plan, and we were able to deal with it. It wasn't a fire drill. So, really, I can't tell you how much risk management is important as part of your job. Remote teams, as I said, 2 vendors remote, people in Farmington Hills, what do you do? A couple things we did to circumvent that was we had virtual team rooms. So we had video conferences, especially like in the testing phases, and IT was up in Michigan, and the testers were in a room. We would be on a video where literally the testers could raise their hand and say, I have a problem, I have a question, and we would fix it right there online. So just dealing with that virtually as much as you can, leverage that, please do. We knew when it was time to meet in person. I think when you have remote teams, you can do a lot remotely, but I think there's times where you run into the wall, you can't get anywhere, you're not able to kind of see eye to eye. You got to know when it's time to get together in a room and do it. I think too, just the more I do project management, the more I learn. It's the soft skills that count more than the technical skills. So communication to me is the key. I don't think you can over-communicate, but you can certainly under-communicate. So lean on that for sure. All right, as far as key activities, plan. As I said, we're project managers. We plan. Put winning an award into your project plan up front. Understand what it is you want to go for and put those activities in there because it does take a lot of time. You have to research it. You've got to write it. Somebody's got to review it. Somebody's got to approve it. You've got deadlines to meet that you don't want to miss, so put it in your plan. Let your sponsors know that you want to go for this and make them a part of that journey. And make your project team a part of that journey. So if you look at the next one there, documenting, take photos, do videos. If your company has any kind of a newsletter or corporate communications, put that in there. We put stuff on the plasmas all the time of where we were. And that's where you can enlist your project team's help. Have them be the photographer. Assign them a little assignment to write an article or something like that. Fun. I cannot stress the fun enough. Team building wise, of course. But here's the other thing about fun. If people are having fun on a project, they are going to talk about it. And talking about it is what gets it out there and what wins awards also. So I just want to share with you a couple of the team building things that we did on the project. One of them, how many of you, everybody's familiar with the show Top Chef, I'm sure, on Food TV and Food Network. And so we had a little mini version of Top Chef. We actually had tuna was the secret ingredient, and we paired them with people on the project team that they normally didn't get to work with. Our steering committee were the judges, And they had $1. They had to go use the vending machine to make an appetizer in 15 minutes and serve it to the steering committee, and they would vote on it, right? So it was so much fun. And we kind of tied it back as to a lesson in project management, which is sometimes you get yucky ingredients like tuna fish, but you still have to make something delicious. And that's just as true in a project, right? We don't always get the ideal thing to work with, but we still have to come out with a good project and be successful. So we took that as a learning opportunity as well as a team building opportunity. When we were in testing, we had a test lab. We had sofas in there. We had toys. We had snacks. We had coffee. If we were on target with our testing, we would have Fun Friday. So we would, play games, and we would just have fun things. So I just think having fun, you've got to break up, your project a little bit because it's hard work. And again, celebrating all the milestones, can't talk about that enough, and document those, take pictures, all that good stuff. So, how do you win? You have to tell a compelling story, absolutely. So, part of that is what sets you apart. And this is not the time to be shy when you're writing your story. This is the time to brag. It's the time to talk about all the blood, sweat, and tears that you did do. So, leverage that. Also, pick out the buzzwords that are in the award information that it's asking for. So in my case, some of the buzzwords were undisputed will to succeed, strategy, innovation. So we wanted to make sure that we captured and addressed those in our nomination form. And also, what were the key activities and the big milestones? You want to talk about those. How did you get to where you needed to go in the journey? I don't know a project that didn't have risks or something come up that was unexpected, and how did you get through that? It's really important for them to know. Most of all, what are the results? Again, you don't necessarily have to be all the way through the project, but you want to be through enough where you can provide some measurable data. So if you can say, we went from X to X, we saved this amount of money, we saved this amount of resources, anything that can be measured and factual, put it in there and stick to the facts, as a matter of fact. It's not from an I feel perspective. This is what we did, so be factual about it. Submit those photos and videos and everything that you collected along the way. Show that to them if you can submit it. And again, any of the risks and the barriers that you overcame, that's what makes that compelling story. Absolutely. All right, so what is out there to win? I don't know, how many of you and your companies have PM awards or any kind of recognition awards? Any of you? Vince? Just only Vince? What about you? Yeah? What company are you with?
Raytheon.
Raytheon. What do they do at Raytheon?
All kinds of stuff.
All kinds of stuff? Yeah. Is it just a yearly? Is it just a yearly
Yes.
award type of thing? Okay, fantastic.
Are they hiring?
Are they hiring? There you go.
Raytheon.com.
Yeah. So as I said, if your company doesn't have one, please considering starting one. I think that is a huge feather in your cap if you could get that off the ground for you. But if not, I am so excited to tell you about the PMI Dallas Awards that are actually coming up. There's going to have 4 teams: PM of the Year, Team of the Year, Volunteer, and Company of the Year. So what's going to be even neater about this is this will happen at the end of the year, where there is going to be a webinar in which you will be able to vote live for the people that win. So there are going to be 3 finalists from each one of those categories, and they will present on the webinar, and you will be able to vote live on who should be the winner. So you get to be a part of that, and I think that's going to be really exciting. PMI.org, I don't know if you've gone online and checked out any of their awards, but they have a huge range of stuff. They have stuff from team categories to academic awards, all kinds of stuff. Check that out. Also, the International Project Management Association, they really kind of go outside the box because they do humanitarian community awards, PM and young PM. So if any of you are doing volunteer work for your church or anything like that, check that out to get some recognition. If your project crosses international lines, look in those countries because they may have something that you may qualify for. And also research-specific profession awards. So if you're in finance like I am, they have industry-specific awards, government. By the way, Susan Kennedy, our own PMI president, is International Project Award winner. And you won in Canada, correct, Susan?
Correct.
Yeah. And what was that? Wasn't that also for government?
Yes, it was.
Uh-huh.
For a Government of Ontario project that I led that was involving onboarding and knowledge transfer for 75 resources.
Wow.
And we won in the knowledge transfer category for CPEX, which is a Canadian-wide award.
Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah, awesome. Anybody else here in the group won any awards? Have you run any at Raytheon out there?
Have I?
Have you?
No.
No? Okay. Vince?
We have a number of awards for our contractors, different safety awards, early completion. You got me thinking here, though. There's a
Yeah.
lot more we could be doing to acknowledge the architects and contractors that work on the projects out here on the campus. So since you started, and I got more work on it.
Right. Sorry about that. Okay, well, any questions? Yes.
Where's the question?
She's out there. Can you raise your hand so he can get you with the mic so we can get it on video? Thanks for your patience. You're going to make him work for it tonight.
So for a project that large, did you have a formal risk evaluation process in place, say at the end of each toll gate or the beginning of each toll gate?
Yeah, great question. The question was, did we have a risk assessment? And when in the project did we do that? We did it at the very beginning when we held our kickoff in the initiation phase. We did it at every single touch point we had weekly as well. Our high-level risks and issues were on our status report. We reviewed those every time. And then at each project phase, we did it again. And we went back through everything and said, what's still relevant, what's not, what do we need to add, those kinds of things. So quite frequently. Yeah, good question. What else? Does winning an award, is there any interest in these types of awards that you guys see, or is it intimidating? I mean, kind of what are your thoughts on the awards process?
How do you handle confidentiality? I mean, we signed confidentiality agreements. I worked at AT&T.
Yes, we do as well. We make our vendors in particular, as soon as we get to a point where we're really going to be sharing information, non-disclosure agreements, get in place and legal gets involved pretty quickly. Yeah.
So how'd you handle that?
I'm sorry? Was there another comment? Oh, I'm sorry.
From the awards perspective, how did you handle the confidentiality?
Oh, from the awards perspective, with the vendors, do you mean, or?
Was presenting it.
Oh, I see. So in this case, for me, I had to run this past communications and legal, and they had to approve what I could say and not say. Yeah. Yeah.
How did you involve your vendors in your planning for the award?
We didn't, which was really sad. You have to be an MBFS employee to be a part of the nomination. Yeah, so the,
Yeah,
Go
how
ahead.
you involved your vendors in planning for the award, since you mentioned that everyone needs to know up front that you're
Yeah.
going for an award.
Yep. Yeah, we weren't able to include the vendors, which is really sad. Again, that's where you really need to think about what are the other things I can do and the other ways that I can honor those people, because they worked equally as hard. So unfortunately, it could only be MBFS employees. But we try to do banquets. We try to have a big celebration, particularly at the end and all through those milestones, to make sure that they were part of every single celebration we had and every milestone that we completed. So great question.
Have a budget that you used for your videos and your photos and communications plans?
We didn't, but that's something that our sponsor, like if we did do celebrations, they were the ones who would control that budget spending. As far as the actual photos and the documentation, we have, I have to say, a pretty excellent communications department through MBFS. And so we could call them and say, hey, would you come and photograph it for us and actually write an article, for our communications, our corporate communications, and for our plasma. So that was just kind of part of what we do at MBFS, which is great. Anything else? Yes, sir.
How would you
get something like that started, like an awards recognition program, who would you have to engage?
I would engage your leadership. I would start with your specific manager and ask them, what is that chain that I need to follow? I'm assuming that probably would go to your senior and executive team at some point once you get a proposal and your idea in place. But I would start with your individual manager and work your way up from there. Ask them what's the appropriate chain to follow to get the approval for that and to get that underway. I would come with some ideas, you know what I mean? So who's going to govern it? Who's going to handle the submissions? Who's going to review the submissions? So kind of have some framework around it. Don't just say, hey, awards would be cool. Get some framework around it before you submit that.
Personally, I haven't seen an awards ceremony and what typical awards would be presented. What kind of awards are given, like quality assurance or?
Yeah. At MBFS, we actually had it's a statue that's made by an artist, I think out of the Farmington Hills office. But I've seen anywhere from certificates to monetary awards. Is that what you mean?
No, I mean, what were people recognized for?
Well, the categories. I'm so sorry. So there was Senior Leader of the Year, a team category, Volunteer of the Year. I'm trying to think. I think there was an individual one besides senior managers. So it could just be any one person. And those were the 4 there. But again, you see the ones that we're thinking of in the PMI Dallas one, which is the individual PM, a team, volunteer, and a company award. So
The team is actually the project.
the project team, project of the year. Yes, thank you, Susan. Yeah, for clarifying that. Is that helpful?
Yeah. So what if you had many teams working in different areas, all separate? How would you recognize people working in several different sectors?
Yeah, that's the challenge, isn't it? Do you mean like when you actually make the award submission?
Because we have several large initiatives, and I guess we'll figure it out as we go along then.
Well, that's really up to your company, right? And what works for you. Again, that's definitely the challenge. As I said, when you can only nominate 7 people, and you saw how many stakeholders were involved, and so many cross departments and locations, it's a challenge. So, that's where you can really kind of design that to tailor to your organization and say, hey, we worked with a lot of different departments, so let's make that pool bigger, or let's not have a limit, or something to that effect, so you can pull those people in to celebrate them too. Yeah.
And does your company ever all get together? Like, do they have an annual event that you could piggyback on?
So my company is IBM, and I actually volunteered to kind of bring the office together a little bit.
Yeah.
So these are the things I bring up and see if I can make happen.
Absolutely. That would be great. Really great. So they don't have anything now as far as any type of...
It's a relatively new office. And,
Yeah.
it's about 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they do anything up on the corporate level outside of your office?
Probably. I mean, I just happened to run into an AT&T one, and it was really nice.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was food and everything. It was nice.
Awesome. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about the criteria that was used to measure the projects and how they judged which ones were the ones that were award-winning?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have leadership traits that is kind of our core values, our company core values. So that was something that they put, what core values does this speak to? What strategic initiative does this support? Is it digital? Is it innovation? Is it process? Those kinds of things to measure. And again, that's where that measurable data comes in, right? And not just say, well, I think we did a really good, cool thing. Show it, demonstrate it through the data. So we did a lot of data analysis to say, this is what things were doing before we started, and here's where we are now. And so it's going in the direction of our objectives. So, and we're showing measurable proof of that. Yeah. Anything else?
Any other questions?
Did your project team know that you were going to go for an award when you started out the project, or did that evolve over time?
They didn't know, and that was why, to me, it was such an important thing to brighten that up on the lessons learned. Let them know at the very beginning, and especially your sponsor. Because I think, number one, that creates excitement. Who wouldn't love to be a part of a project that's going for an award? But you're right, there has to be transparency there, because I think what happened was the President's Award came up. There's only these 7 people, and people were standing there going, oh my God, I wasn't a part of that. So awkward. Yeah, very awkward. So talk about it up front. Definitely a lesson that we learned. Yeah.
Now, you talked about for y'all winning, but like at our company, they'll mention all the nominations and talk a little bit about, do they address that? So at least there's some recognition for other things going on.
That's a great point, too. And yes, they do. So all of those are on the portals and websites. You get to see all the nominees. This is announced at our year-end town hall with the president. Kind of a nice ceremony, and he puts on a tux and the whole thing. It's kind of a fun thing. But you're right, letting other people get recognition even if they didn't win. And by the way, don't let your feelings be hurt either if you don't win, because sometimes these things are also political. So surprise, surprise, right? I know. So don't be sad if you don't, but it certainly is a pleasure just to be nominated. But don't let your feelings get hurt if you don't. Anything else?
Any other questions?
Vince?
They're wearing you out tonight.
Kurt's making his, earning his keep
Don't worry
tonight.
about it. Okay, so when we were working with the contractor to build the expansion to the School of Management over here, one of the lecturers, a guy named John Fowler, who also does photography quite professionally, I might add, asked if he could come out to the job sites and take photographs. And of course,
great.
I'm kind of construction paparazzi. I'm out there carpet bombing these sites every day taking photographs. But
Right.
John took it to a completely different level. I was out there measuring the progress of the building and whether or not we were going to finish the building on time.
Mm-hmm.
John saw the people out there doing the work.
Yeah.
And when you saw the photographs that he put together, he was doing more than I was doing. I was documenting. He was telling the story.
Yeah.
And he wove that story of not just the people that were going to be studying and working in these buildings, but the people who put it together.
Yes.
That's not necessarily an award, but what he got us to do is look past, our procedures and our
Yes.
our Gantt charts,
Right.
and see the people, which is what we're doing it for in the first place.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
what that felt like to me was another way of celebrating a milestone, and it's the kind of thing that I think we're going to try to encourage on future projects.
And I love that. I think that is such a great comment, Vince, in many ways, because there were times on our project, it was long. 2.5 years is a long time, and it feels like a long time. And especially if you're running up against some challenges and some stumbling blocks, it's so nice to have things documented and like a scrapbook and go back and say, holy cow, do you remember us way back here? And here we are now. And isn't that awesome? And we are getting stuff done. And it kind of revitalizes the group, right? It gets everybody really excited again. So I love that. And having a scrapbook of what you're doing, it's great. It's really great. Good comment. Okay, anything else?
Going once? Naturally, we'll do the other end of the room.
Way back there, yeah, with your pizza.
So do you have any success strategies, tidbits, anything you can share with us in terms of managing that large of a group of stakeholders, like 100? Because when it starts to swell, it becomes incredibly challenging to
Yeah.
fill everybody in, and
Yep.
you wind up having to have a meeting about the meeting that
Yeah.
you're going to meet about the...
Totally, right?
So-
And everybody hates you now because you're having meetings about the meetings. I do, and that was to do a really good stakeholder analysis at the front. So those 100 people, identify those 100 people, and to what level do they have a stake? What types of communications do they need? So I literally had a matrix, kind of like a risk matrix, but it was a stakeholder matrix. And it would list out what is their role, what is the stake in their project, is it critical or non-critical? How do they want to be communicated? What meetings do they need to attend and what ones do they not? Or do they simply just get an email with an update? So we did a pretty heavy-duty stakeholder analysis at the very beginning, and we looked at that regularly because people leave, they move on, right, to other jobs, or they're no longer with the company. So updating that regularly is key too, especially on a long project. So I say get a good stakeholder analysis together and use your team to do that, because it's your team that's going to know who those people are. You can't do it in a vacuum. You don't know about everybody. So rely on your team to go through that exercise with you. It's very valuable. Yeah.
So there's more.
Loving your question.
Kind of roles ended up with these 7 nominees that actually won the award? What
Yeah.
kind of roles did they have on
What
the
were the
project?
roles in the project? Yeah. So myself as project manager, my IT PM. So as Mercedes, like I said, we have our IT people that are up in Farmington. So you have a PM counterpart in the IT world. He was a part of it. Our business leads, we had 2 of them, one for truck and for car, as I said, for the project. And we had a handful of people that were the down in the depths of the icky, right? They were the people in the test lab. They were the people writing tons of requirements. So the way I think that they looked at it, they wanted the people on that 7 to be the people that were there from the very start to the very bitter end, and who saw everything in between and really down in the trenches. So I think that's how those 7 got selected. Yeah.
I don't have a question per se. I just wondered if you put that slide back up that showed the, like how you would do the reporting, you know, on your progress and everything, please.
Reporting on the progress. Let me go back.
That's it. Right
Oh, this one here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Alrighty, thank you.
Sure. Yes, Susan.
Did you have a question or comment on it?
Did your life change? What different after you won this?
Yes, I got more Oscar award parts, you know. Yes, that's right. It did. You know, I have to say that it gave me a lot of credibility and a lot of visibility. So people come to me now and they say, hey, I either want to submit for the President's Award or I want to win it. So what did you do, you know? And I think, it just gives you a ton of credibility just in PM in general, right? Because they think, holy cow, you won this award. And so what did you do? How did you succeed in a project? Because we all know, I think without the methodology, you know, that Kurt's talked about, we have a lot more methodology around things and we're seeing a lot more projects succeed, but we certainly still see a lot fail. And so they want to know what's working for you. Yeah, how are you getting to be successful? I'm sorry, she's got the mic for 1 second. We'll be right with you. I'm so sorry.
Sorry. So you're doing a great job mentoring us. Are you mentoring other people in your organization about how to win?
We do. That's a great question. We have a lot of mentorship through our PM department itself and through the company itself, so kind of both ways. Again, fabulous that we have project coaches that are assigned to us. I don't know how many people at organizations can say that, to be honest with you. And they are there not only through just the technical aspects of project management, but the soft skills, right? I've got this problem. I need to sway somebody to go this direction. How do I do that? So yes, we do, not only from a project perspective, but also from a company perspective as well. Yeah, I think that's so important, especially for experienced project managers to mentor the ones that are just getting started in it, because we've all been there, right? I'm a project manager, really? What do I do? How do you start? So it's super important. Yeah, and I know that's something you're also working on through PMI Dallas, right, Susan? In a mentoring program. So if you weren't aware of that, please take advantage of it. I think it's a nice opportunity.
And you don't have to be a rookie, because I just did it. I've been project manager for 20 years, but
Right.
I wanted to find out a different perspective from somebody who had a problem and how they approached it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, good feedback, Jan.
So what were your different roles? I'm assuming you were the main PM for that project, but what else? What other roles did you have to take on for this project?
Yeah, within the project. Cheerleader, counselor, no, I'm kidding. Bartender, yeah, exactly. You know, what's interesting too, this literally was my first project in PM. I have no idea why they gave it to me, God bless them. I mean, I was really overwhelmed. And I think it took me a good 6 months to a year to finally get my arms around it, not only from a project perspective, but just from, a PM perspective and understanding what the heck it was I was doing. So as far as roles, I kind of felt like I wore many hats. Again, I started kind of also dabbling into the specific roles of like testing and business requirements and those kinds of things. And then I finally got smart and said, I need help. And I think we can do it this way. I think we can bring on some people that can specifically handle these much bigger chunks of the project that I cannot keep my eye on the ball all day, because you have to look, you're looking at the big picture, right? Let people who are specialized in those areas keep their eye on the ball for those areas. So I kind of felt like I wore a lot of hats, to be honest with you. Yeah, team builder. Looks like we got a question. Oh, back there.
Okay, over and beyond just like getting the trophies or the awards, at the beginning of the project, whenever you meet with the stakeholder, do you negotiate, like if you come in under budget, that you should share in some of the savings and distribute that to the team members?
No, but that's a fantastic idea. In our organization, no, we don't, but that's a great idea. I like that. But we do also have it's called Success Points program, where you can nominate anybody and give them money. And it's like they get a Visa card. It can be quite large, to be honest with you, depending on what they did. So no, but we do try to reward them monetarily through other things.
I would think like if you had a, say, $5 million project,
Yeah.
you came in, say, $250,000 under budget.
Yeah,
the
let's
team
split that
should
up.
get 25% of that or something like
Absolutely. That's a great idea. I love that. Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah, I think there's one over there, Kurt.
Right next to it.
Hi, how often did you engage with your stakeholders on a regular basis? From a regular meeting perspective, and then how often did you send out notifications or communications from a change management perspective? Because I'm sure your stakeholders were interested in whatever changes you were rolling out as you were going along.
Great question. Just as you were asking about how do we manage the stakeholders, that's part of the stakeholder plan, is to talk about what communications do they need to be on, but we also did a communication plan as well. So how often do we want to have touch points on a weekly basis? Who needs to be a part of those? And typically that was the core team of people, those kind of intimate 10 to 12 people who are really down in the trenches are there on the daily touch points. Then we kind of worked up from there. So how often do we want to have a steering committee meeting? Do we want to have that in person? Or do we want to just send out a status report? So we had to work through that. We would talk about, communications to the larger audience, just sending out an email blast. Basically, here's a big project update. Here's where we are. Here's what we're doing. Sometimes something would come up and we kind of have, an emergency type meeting. We also had a very large, our executive sponsor, and we did what was called a brown bag lunch with him for an update once a month. And it was, don't bring slides. We're not here to do some big presentation on where we are. Let's literally bring our lunch. That's where the term brown bag came from. And we would just sit and we would talk. Where are we? What's working well? What's not working well? So he enjoyed just a relaxed, casual meeting about it. I think that's kind of the other key to your communications, is tailoring that to your audience. And ask them, how do you want to be communicated to? What do you appreciate? Do you want to have a meeting, or would you prefer just to have an email? So that's something that I ask them what they would like to do. I don't force, you're going to come to this meeting. I ask them, how do you want to get your updates? Yeah.
And there's another one. Was criteria part of this? Was the process a part of the criteria, like whether this project was agile? From an award-winning perspective, was it waterfall, was it hybrid? And what tools did you use to manage?
That is a great question. As a matter of fact, this was one of our challenges on the project, is we were a waterfall, MBFS is a waterfall organization. Our vendor came in that was developing the software, and they said, we're agile. And we went, you're what? So we did have to develop a hybrid approach to how we did that and kind of meet in the middle, so that it was a little bit waterfall and a little bit agile, because we weren't quite ready as an organization to go agile, and they weren't quite willing to go waterfall. So we kind of met in the middle and did a hybrid. Yeah, and we do that for each project is different. What's the best methodology that's going to work for that project? Yeah. Did you have a question? Okay.
Yeah, excellent question. So here I'm up at the top. Who's next? It's all downhill from here.
It's all
so-
downhill from there. He's not going back up there, darn it.
Yeah, I will.
You guys asked wonderful questions, and I can't thank you enough for having me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kristi. I want to present you with a little token of appreciation.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I had to run from the back of the room.
That's okay.
Right there.
It's like Christmas. That's awesome. Wow.
Thank you very much for a very
Thank you,
wonderful
Kurt. It was a
presentation.
pleasure. What a great group of folks. Thank you for being so engaged. Thanks.